Today we have with us Dr. Singhi Etiraj, who is the Associate Professor, Department of Forensic Medicine from AIMS, Bilaspur, Himachal Pradesh. As you all know, Dr. Singhi Etiraj has been very well known for his question bank that is called as Companion for the MBBS graduates, and also the Solved Singhi. And on total, he has authored around 26 books for the medical students, and it's my pleasure and an honor to have him today here, because I think I've gone through most of the books and it supported a lot during my MBBS period. So thank you so much, sir, and welcome to the summit, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sajjan. And really, it's been actually a great opportunity for me to connect with the students, and at the right juncture. Usually, I've been catering to the undergraduates, a lot of RGHS students, the Karnataka students. Right. But opportunities such as this is, rare to come by. So that's why the moment you asked me, I grabbed onto it and I said, fine, this is something that I can, do one more additional step to help the students to choose the right career.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's my pleasure to have you, and I think students would love to see you. So I think most of them would have read your book, but it's most of the time
many have not seen my face. So
exactly, sir. Right, great, and thank you so much for being here today. Right. So with that, let's go ahead with the discussion, sir. So this is a summit mainly to give an idea for the medical students to get an practical view of each specialty, so that they can choose their career pathway based on the informed decision, as you rightly said, so that they can be knowing what they're getting into by looking into the life of different specialists from different areas of work, right? So with that, the first thing what we would like to know is, why did you choose forensic medicine as a specialty? What was the thing which went to your mind at that point of time?
See, the answer is quite complex. I'll try to simplify it try to put it up as simplified manner as possible, because many factors come into picture when you are actually choosing a career. So when actually was preparing for my entrances, it was those times during which even I had started, those were my initial days of writing books. So when I was solving the first year books, and I had shifted on to the second year books, the first book I chose to write the thing, because it's a single paper in forensic. So I started writing the forensic, the first. And that was the time, because it was during my final year, I wrote the first year book. So during my internship and a little early phase of PG preparation, I had started writing about forensic. And it's the gospel truth. It's this thing that forensic is something that no one reads in the second year. It is something which is to be read for last 15 days and you pass. Somehow you manage to scrape through while just reading it for 15 days. So everyone reads it for the sake of passing it. No one reads it, the subject, as it should be read. And I don't know, find it this thing that there are few teachers who teach it very objectively, and there are who teach it very subjectively, just for the sake of finishing up a class. So that doesn't create interest in the minds of the students. So even I was amongst those. I passed reading last, say about 2-3 days, and I passed my forensic. But when I was writing the solving the papers of RGHS for forensic, that time actually I had to read it, because that is how I write my books. I actually read everything, understand it, and then I write it. It's not just like mere copy paste from the books, that this is there, that is there. That is the different thing that I do with my books. So I read forensic, and not from one book. So when I'm writing, see, usually you pass from one book. I still remember everyone reads, my days, everyone used to read Synopsis by Dr. Narayan Reddy. But when I was solving it, I had to go back to the bigger book of Sirs, that is Essential of Forensic Medicine. Then there was a Nandi, there was Parikh. These are the books you actually, most of them are not heard of when you're doing undergraduate. Any book, take a book from a senior, just read it before the exam and you pass. So I read the book and I found it fascinating, for reasons that this is one book, one subject or one specialty where there is actually a logic. If something is to happen this way, it happens because of this thing. There is a science behind everything that happens to the body after death. or any effect that happens to the body. If there is a particular froth that is occurring in a case of drowning, it's occurring only in a case of drowning, not in any other factual death, because there is a logic behind it. The water enters, the air is there, the person is respiring, the surfactant is lost, and then there is, because of that churning motion, you get that froth. So the more you go in depth of the subject, you find it all the more logical. So that actually caught my attention. And the other thing was, those time I was writing my books. Forensic medicine is one subject which is, usually is everyone as a second year. Again, like I said, what impression we have is what you see in second year, like about the subject you see in your MBBS days. So my impression of forensic was only when what I saw in my second year. So what I thought, that forensic is all about, you have 3 years of PG, let there be. Instead of reading it for 15 days, you might have to read it for a month. So I thought I can give time to my books. I can continue writing my books. By the time actually I had got so addicted, it was like doing my MBBS again. I was reading everything and reading it in depth, and with age you get certain maturity to understand that subject better. Right now you go back and read a 10th standard book or 12th standard book, you will understand it more better now. But in 10th and 12th they used to look like subjects which were very difficult to grasp.
Exactly.
So the same thing was happening to me. So I was actually, I got addicted to writing books. I continue writing books. Actually, I didn't concentrate much on my entrances also. My friends actually forced me to come down, and, we were used to group studies during our UG days also, right? All our MBBS examination, we did group studies and we passed. So it was kind of a jinx also for all of us that, all of us sit together and we study, we'll crack. And we cracked. We cracked the exams. All of 3 of us cracked the exam the same year. So they forced me, and we did crack the examination. And I had a choice when actually picking up a thing. I had choice because that was the year when I chose this thing. That was the year that COMEDCAT had just started, and it was the second year. So there was no basic rules for, how the counseling will take place, how this thing particular will go. And I'm saying why choose COMEDCAT, because I didn't go opt for government seats, because basically the town I was belonging to and living those days was only one medical college, that was MR Medical College, Gulbarga. And I wanted to get back to the same place because I had all my setup there. I was comfortable with my room, the books, my computer, and the guy who used to type my books. I didn't wanted to know, books were the priority there. So the subject was chosen, the college was to be chosen, but again, the thing is, what I saw in my UG days was from the same college. So I thought, okay, I'll read 1 month in this college and rest to 2.5 years I can enjoy. Enjoy in sense I can continue writing my books. So I chose and preferred to go under MR Medical College. The other reason being Dr. K.S. Narayan Reddy was the teacher there. So that is another factor that made me choose that rather than a government college. So all things fell into its place. The COMEDCAT those days was such a complex phenomena that each individual college was doing its own counseling. So I was having option to choose forensic at MS Ramaya, at Bijapur, at Belgaum. I had actually option to choose forensic across the state, anywhere I wanted, even Manipal, and even in government. But again, as I said, because of my comfort zone, I didn't want to leave out of Gulbarga. So I preferred to choose it there. And I was actually had an option to get in there. And while choosing the same college, I had other options also. I had ENT, I had ortho, I had all the diplomas in front of me. But again, I had made up my mind for forensic. So because I found the subject very interesting. So that is how I actually landed up with forensic, and still in love with the subject. That is what got me into an institute like AIIMS, being, constantly reading and revising and doing research. So that is my story of getting into forensic.
Got it. Right.
I don't think so it's that funny, but kind of unique, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, two things what I could see from what you shared. One is the subject you liked, and also you in the same way it could also give you time to pursue your passion. So that was the major thing which had a decision making there. I got it. Because this would be most of the situations. Someone would be in the sport, someone in the other
True, true.
extracurricular activities. So they would
I
like to do that.
actually, yeah, I would like to butt in. There is another eminent forensic guy, Dr. Sumit Seth. He had
Hmm.
written, authored a book. It was very popular back then, but now he got busy with his career. I had read his interview when I was after I passed out. He is actually an Indian Foreign Service person, and he chose forensic medicine only for this particular reason, because he wanted to crack his UPSC.
Right.
So yeah, this gives you a a opportunity to pursue your alternatives or options, whatever you want to try. And it's a branch which is, you can be as free as you want, or it can be as busy as you want. I'll deal with this like what I when we talk a little further, that
Got
why
it.
is
Yeah.
it so easy and so difficult too.
Got it. Got it. So now it's been years that you have been in the specialty and practicing. So how do you see what are the advantages or the pros of being a forensic medicine?
See, the subject of forensic medicine, what an undergraduate understands is totally different from that. You understand the forensic medicine once you are in the field, once you become a doctor, especially in a government setup, where one of the duty of a doctor is to conduct post-mortem examination. It's one of the important duty as a registered medical practitioner. One has to perform post-mortem and find the closure for the dead. That is where you would realize that had I studied my forensic well, I would have been able to do post-mortem properly. It's not that you have to cut open the bodies, but at least interpretation of the injuries and going to the court and answering those questions. Those are the difficult things, especially the court scenarios, because basic understanding of a judge is a doctor is should know how to do a post-mortem, and therefore it is like a viva by an external examiner sitting there, because it is expected by external that internal would have taught him everything. So the same scenario occurs when you go to the court, where the questions are put forth. You can't give an excuse that I'm just plain MBBS guy, or I am not a forensic expert, I'm a pediatrician, I am a surgeon. You're supposed to know as an MBBS guy. So I still get calls from my colleagues, like my friends, my few juniors, as well as my friends, students. Sir, this particular case came, and what should be the cause of death, and thanks to WhatsApp nowadays, they send me pictures, and whatever little best I can do to help them to write the opinion or the steps to be taken. Because one of my teachers, the very day I chose forensic medicine, said to me that if you don't know your medicine, all the max what can happen is your patient can die. But if you don't know your forensic medicine, it is you who is gonna die, because in the court you will be grilled, you will be almost blasted upon. There may be a noting onto your thing, or there may be a comment by the judge, which will kind of bring disrepute to yourself, or bring a bad this thing to your service record if you're in a government setup. So these are like kind of an sub perspective a second year MBBS student has. That subject is nothing, it's just a mere formality that we need to everyone thinks, even I thought, that why the hell this subject is there. We have to pass it, read it, and then pass it. But the importance of the subject would be realized only when you come out of the second year, like the internship. The pros are, see, whenever, as my 12 years of experience, forensic medicine in a government setup is one of the most powerful position in any district or in any medical college, because you're directly dealing with the police, judiciary, and it's police that the law that someone don't want to deal with. So if there is a police come knocking on a medical college, the first person the dean would call is, where is the head of the forensic? Call him and send him, let him handle the police. And this thing you have the the power, the this thing authority you have in the district uh, with the police is unparalleled. You can do whatever you want. Like say if it's a lockdown also, and if I'm roaming out in my car, if someone stops me, he recognizes me, it say Dr. Sahab jaiye. So that is one thing that only a forensic guy can yield the power, that thing no one else can, because we are day-to-day basis interacting with the police. So that is like an addiction. That power is like an addiction once you start enjoying it. If you're in a private setup, then see, because the law and order is a state subject. So not all thing. What I'm saying is that every private college will have a post-mortem or something. Governments do everywhere. Governments do have post-mortem, but privates don't. Many of the states in India, private medical colleges, they don't have post-mortem. Say for example, say Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Maharashtra. These are the states with maximum number of PG, medical colleges, barring exception. The highest are in Karnataka, but Karnataka do have postmortems for private medical colleges. But the other states which have maximum colleges, like Maharashtra coming next, then coming the Tamil Nadu, then the Telangana and Andhra, and everywhere else, even other states like Rajasthan, be it UP, be it MP, private colleges, they don't have postmortems. It's only the government hospitals or government doctors are entitled to perform the postmortem. So in such colleges, your job only limits to teaching, which usually have about weekly 2 or 3 lectures distributed among 3 faculty members. Let's say most of the colleges are having 150 undergraduates. So the basic requirement is about 3 teachers. And with NMC's new CBME curriculum, it's like, the entire thing is distributed over 2 years now. So the workload is kind of reduced. So you can do whatever you wish. You can pursue your passion, you can pursue your hobbies, you can pursue anything. If you are into medical for some reasons, and then you have found your passion somewhere else, or you found a better opportunity or something, you can still pursue that while being in the forensic. I can quote few examples, not naming the doctors that I know, who are in metropolitan areas like Bangalore, who are actually property dealers, who are consultants, who are freelancing as private practitioners, because they are attached to a medical college, but they are still also doing private practice. So you can pursue your passion doing whatever you want. So that is one, that it gives you enough free time if you wish. Like I said, I'll explain it in future, that forensic is the extremes. It's on the 2 extremes. If you want to be free, you can be as free as you want. Like everyone would envy you that you don't have any work. You only take about 1 class in a week, and your juniors take about, or your other faculty members take one class. So weekly, like 3 classes. So you take 1 class in a week, rest of other days you are totally free. Or the other end of spectrum is you are so busy with a government setup. There are postmortems, there is medical legal examinations of injuries, there are court evidences, court summons, so much so that you don't have time to take undergraduate classes. I think it's a known truth that it's very difficult to have a forensic class in a government medical college, because many of the time faculties are in the court or busy attending a case or it's only while doing a postmortem many of the classes are taken. That is the way I also learned through Dr. Reddy, that our postgraduate classes were along with the postmortems. So postmortem used to take place, and we were explained everything on spot. Like, this is how you need to do a hydrostatic test. He will get a bucket of water, he would cut the lungs, and he will show. Though if it is not a case of infanticide also, but he would show how the process takes place. So if you can be as busy as you want, and if you're in a government setup, again, you are a source of envy, because the power you yield in the district, the authority you have, everyone comes to you for anything they have. Like, I still remember, even when I was an undergraduate, and even when I happened to be a postgraduate, calling up your forensic faculty when you're caught not having license by the police. So we are the guys to talk to get, escape the police at the very spot. Right. So that is the thing. You are envy at the both spectrum, whichever side you are on. So these are certain pros that are there for the forensic. And again, as I said, you don't have to do anything extraordinary. It's a logical subject. If you can think logically, if you know the concept that why this particular thing happens, you can always be right. Unlike medicine, where every person behaves differently, one particular guy will respond to one particular antibiotic, whereas the same patient profile, that he may not respond, then you might have to choose or change the different antibiotic. So that is one thing about other thing about forensic. It's all about logic.
Right. So that's wonderful. I got to know a lot of new things from what you shared. And one of the main thing which emphasized was like, no, a medicine clinical guy need to know the subject to save the patient, and the forensic guy need to know the subject to save themselves. So that
True,
was
true.
really emphasizing. So we could get the intensity of how, as a professional in the medical college, and attending to the medical legal issues, there is a lot of things which has to be dealt with. Got it, right? So now with the 12 years of experience, what are the the cons or the disadvantages of being in this particular specialty? What do you say?
Okay. See, cons can be more, can be few. It depends on what perspective you have. But the major con which I found was the paucity of the jobs, the career opportunities. For reasons I said, forensic medicine is a subject which is taught in medical colleges. To an extent, there was one particular Vision 2020 document was released about 7 years back, where it's talked about removing the subject from the MBBS curriculum itself and considering it to be only a PG specialty. So if that was to be done, if the subject had been removed from the MBBS curriculum, then there would have been no requirement of the teachers to teach to an MBBS graduate. But anyway, better senses prevailed on the people who were actually framing these guidelines, because as I said, again, it's only an RMP. MBBS guy is the basic qualification you need to have to do the postmortem. So if there is no forensic subject, then how will they learn about doing postmortems? And in India, majority of the postmortems, say about 80 to 90% of the postmortems are done by MBBS level doctors. At PSC level, only it's at a district level you will find specialists, but again those are not expert in forensic medicine, so basically they are again doing it on basis of their MBBS. So jobs are only limited to medical colleges. You can't have private practice as a forensic expert. There's nothing called a private mortuary. All mortuaries are under control of government, so your workplace is your mortuary. So that is one thing where it is this thing. Again, there is a limitation of the number of the staffs that are there, because it is all again regulated that only so many number of staff should be present. So what happens is especially the private medical colleges, they don't want to hire people if they can manage the show with 1 or 2 people, because though the statutory requirement, again as I'm saying, quoting an example of 150 medical seats, the requirement would be of 3 faculties, but they make do with 2 of them, because again they say there is no too much teaching load they can manage. Only at the time of inspection they will hire someone. So you are totally dependent on medical colleges to hire you. So that creates kind of a difficult situation for you to pursue your career. You can't do anything out of this thing unless you want to do something which is like a complement to your subject. But the other thing, okay, fine, it's a career option thing. I'll just slightly touch it again. I know you would ask it in future, what are the options you have? But again, it's not a major limitation, because people have now, the subject experts have made the subject a little more interesting. And what I'm talking about was the days when I was an undergraduate, the initial trouble I faced. I had to work all the way down to the in the Kanyakumari district, though Karnataka is full of medical colleges. I am a person known across Karnataka, but I was never have ever worked in Karnataka, any medical colleges. I graduated, I post-graduated, but never worked in Karnataka. So that is the major limitation or flaw I see in this particular profession, choosing this particular profession, that you are dependent. You can't do a private practice. Even if you want to do a private practice, again, there are limitations. There are innovative methods, such as you can do medical legal examinations, MLC examinations, because many of the doctors, because see, any injury case that comes to a hospital, be it a corporate also or a private hospital, a small setup, an orthopedician, a surgeon are the people who are actually supposed to, examine the injury case. But no one wants to have that trouble of going to the court, because that is a major, this thing that a doctor fears. As I said, no one wants to deal with the law. They don't want to go to the court because it's not the day that you are summoned, your evidence would be take place. It could go on for about 2 or 3 visits. You might have to go to the court, and the court timings coincide with your OT timings, with your OPD timings. No one wants to ruin that. So at least certain metropolitan areas, thanks to forensic experts and as well as the fellow doctors, the concept has come into place where the medical legal expert is called in to examine a medical legal case. A forensic expert is, it's like a freelancing, which certain people have started doing it. But again, this is a regional phenomena, a local phenomena. It's not pan-India. I've seen this practice in Mumbai, I've seen this practice in Bangalore, but I've not seen this practice up north in Delhi or Chandigarh or any parts of, say, UP, Lucknow, or anywhere. This is something which is unheard of, because still the subject is in its rudimentary stage here up north. But in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, as I said, there are a lot many forensic experts there. So they have done a lot of effort to improve the subject there. So this is the major con which I felt. Again, the other thing is that, again, if you don't know your subject, you are going to the court, you are subjected to the comments by the judge. And courtroom is a place where you cannot counter argue. It's would be considered as a contempt. So whatever is said to you, you have to listen to if the remarks are passed on by the judge. So that is another drawback that you have.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right. So now we looked into both pros and cons of the specialty. So now, for whom would you suggest this as a career choice, as an ideal career choice for what students?
Someone with a logical bend of thinking, someone who is not interested in clinical practice, someone who likes to has kind of inclination towards the law, as parents, or someone who is in the family of lawyers.
Right.
And that is what I feel, because of the cons, I wouldn't suggest this subject to be chosen a lot. I would rather prefer someone taking up a clinical seat, because you can always freelance. Now, the basic limitation that comes with the subject of forensic is that if you are getting a medical college, you are not getting a place of your choice. But if you want to see, you have certain family commitments, you have certain particular thing. That is one you have. If you're not working in a medical college, you're not working in a corporate, you can always go open your own clinic and start your practice. If you want to stay, say I want to go back to my native place and I want to stay there. There is no medical college, but I want to live there to take care of my parents. Fine, you can start your private practice, which a forensic guy cannot. He cannot start his own private mortuary there, that I'll do post-mortem. Then he has to get absorbed into the government system. Right. And the government has to post you to your native place. And again, when you're getting posted there, you will be posted as an MBBS thing. So again, the drawback of the salary would come. You're not a subject expert, a clinical subject expert that the government is interested. So they will say that we don't want forensic guy. You want to come as an MBBS, you can come. So I would cover this. You choose it only if you have a passion for it. Otherwise, just for the sake of doing it, don't do it.
Sure. Right. So now, exactly. So now, looking into the subject, like after MD forensic medicine, are there any super specialization subspecialties which one can do from either India or abroad, and would there be any scope for that?
It's forensic medicine is kind of an end branch, because they are training you to be everything what you can handle. Everything is to be your toxicology is taught to you, your postmortems, your clinical forensic medicine, everything is being taught to you. So it's an end branch, but you can still pursue your fellowships or this thing based on your own interest. I've seen certain guys do LLB because it's a complementary thing. People have pursued law, and a deadly combination, a lawyer and a forensic expert. And you can always, skip your, if you don't get your job, skip your forensic medicine, start practicing as a criminal lawyer. No one can touch you because you know the forensics. So you can interpret the evidences written by you can interpret the forensic medicine, the postmortem reports the way you want, and you can always cross-examine. And if you're a forensic expert and you're grilling MBBS doctor as a lawyer, you would obviously surely win the case. So you can pursue that, but nothing in forensic medicine. You can actually, like I said, you can pursue your career as a freelancer in a medical legal examination. If that particular region has that particular, tendency to hire private doctors for medical legal examinations. You can also do emergency medicine. I know a few of the guys who have done emergency medicine. Again, that is also complementary for reasons that, emergency medicine, you are handling emergencies. Most of the emergencies are accidents, traumas. So you are fit to perform, issue the medical legal reports. You have the additional qualification of emergency medicine. So you are able to handle the treatment also. Even the poisoning you are able to handle. So emergency medicine is also another complementary subject. It's not a super specialty, but you want to get into corporate, you want to live into your hometown, and you don't have an option of doing something. So you can always, you can have a slight clinical touch. You can go into emergency medicine. So being a lawyer or being an emergency physician, these are the two options that one can have after forensic medicine. And then the recent trend that has picked up last decade is about the medical toxicologist. India, no one offers these courses, but you can get a fellowship from abroad and you can be a certified medical toxicologist. Now, these guys are kind of emergency physician, but only dealing with the poisoning cases. So you can freelance or you can be attached to a hospital. And a medical toxicologist is in fact that it's a combination of a pharmacologist, of a toxicologist, as well as a physician. He is treating the case. He is diagnosing the case by actually analyzing the poison, and he is actually, handling the medical legal aspect of it. So it's a combination, amalgamation of all three. There is American Board of Forensic Toxicologists where you can get a certification and then you can come down and practice. But again, it is something new, and new things take time to, creep into the Indian system. So it will take time, but still that option is there. Regarding abroad, the problem that comes regarding abroad specialties or the scope abroad is the subject of forensic medicine. The word medicine is forensic medicine is only limited to few of the countries like West Indies. You have your Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. These are few of the countries where the subject of forensic medicine exists. Elsewhere, forensic is actually a super specialty of pathology. It's actually called forensic pathology. So in UK, you do this thing in pathology, and then you show your inclination toward the forensic part or the anatomical pathology. So there it's a kind of super specialization that you do after your pathology, because it's the basically subject what we are actually learning is also forensic pathology. The toxicology is added, and this subject is only in this particular few Commonwealth countries. Even in UK, it's called a different thing. It's called as a legal medicine. And there, as you would have seen in certain interesting crime series like CSI, it's a job which actually is not in a medical college or something. It is attached to the police. And you're doing all the postmortems and everything and handling in the investigation. There is a system of medical examiners investigation. So doing it from here and then going abroad, it's a difficult thing. Again, you will be like reinventing the wheel. You can't go there as a forensic pathologist. You will be just going there as an MBBS and you want to pursue it again, get trained there according to their standard. So that is another limitation, that forensic medicine as a specialty is not accepted across the world because of the different system of teaching it and different scope of responsibilities across the nation. It's not that India is at one spectrum and the rest of the world is at. Again, the rest of the world have their own systems. Australia might have a different. Again, there is similar to UK that you have to do your pathology there. and then you get into your forensic. So that's a major problem, that you can't go there as a forensic expert. But certainly you can get your fellowships and come back to India, your further trainings. There are famous institutes, just like I mentioned, American Board of Medical Toxicologists. Then there is the University of Monash, University of Dundee's, which actually have courses. There is the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine in Australia. So these, they run, additional fellowship kind of courses where you are trained in certain specialty. Now there is a new thing that has just recently started in India called virtual autopsy. AIIMS New Delhi is the one which started it with a collaboration with ICMR as a research project. This is something where the postmortem is done by the CT machine. The body is not opened. But the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine is actually offering a course of a week to you to be trained in what is called as forensic radiology. So you get trained there, come back, and you can start this particular thing where you are the postmortem. You don't need to cut open because certain people don't want their bodies or their deads to be opened for religious purposes, for affectionate purposes. So you can still actually cater to those population. And another interesting thing, let me point it out. The UK has a different, the Ireland has a different system of forensic medicine where there are even private experts are hired to witness the autopsy. So if you are accused and you hire a defense lawyer can rehire again a forensic expert to be present during the autopsy to witness whether everything is going by the book, everything is written, and there is no malified intention with the doctor who is doing autopsy. In India, that system is not there. It's actually even the book says that no one else should be present in the autopsy room. Even the IOs sometimes are banned of coming inside. So that is the scope. And abroad, if you're doing it, finish your MBBS here, go abroad. You have a bright future abroad because the subject has grown by bounds and leaps abroad, and that's a different thing altogether. You're directly dealing with the police, and it has a direct respect there. In India, we are called the people who are dealing with the doctors of the dead. We are not still looked upon with great fascination. So that is one this thing with India and the situation abroad.
Right. So you have covered a lot of things with this. So the next thing what we are supposed to discuss was regarding the career pathways. Is there any what are the opportunities in India and abroad? So in India, you already mentioned medical
Let me
college.
touch
Anything
upon
else
few
you
of
want to
things.
add? Yeah.
Yeah. Just let me revise it again so that can be discussed under the question. That career opportunities, as I said, you can see as a forensic expert, you are just limited to your medical colleges. But see, not all the things. Like recently, just about a week back, the government of Punjab had started and recruited as made a announcement, recruitment announcement for 31 forensic experts to be posted at all the districts. Meaning there would be a forensic expert at each district to perform postmortems. They don't have that many doctors actually right now. They have advertised 31 posts there, but they don't have 31 forensic experts. Because they have only 3 medical colleges in a small state. But this is all because of proactivism of the Punjab and Haryana High Court. Way back in 2003 or 2007, 2013, I believe, a judgment was passed where the government of Punjab and Haryana were directed to depute a forensic expert at district levels. Each district should have like a pediatrician, like a gynecologist, like a radiologist. These are certain basic anesthesiologists. These are some things which should be present at district hospitals. So likewise, there should be a forensic expert to be posted at district levels. If such a thing becomes a reality pan-India, then, and it's actually a need of the hour, because the MBBS doctors are really not that well versed or well equipped to handle complicated cases. And what happens is, end result is there is miscarriage of justice. People escape because a certain injury is missed, or certain injury or bodily change is misrepresented or misinterpreted, and judge is not there present at the autopsy scene or crime scene. he just believes what is presented to him, and the postmortem report, whatever is written, is the gospel truth. Whatever doctor says is the final thing. So what happens is there has to be a forensic expert at a district level. Just like you have, see, a child falls sick, you need a pediatrician. For some complicated deliveries, high risk pregnancies, you need a obstetricians to conduct the deliveries. So the judiciary need to take a proactive approach and make sure that all districts should have a forensic expert. There has been, I don't know, I've not seen the paper, but have heard from my seniors, my teachers, that there was a proposal to have a forensic expert of the cadre of IPS present at district level to deal with. He would be called equal to rank of an superintendent of police of having medical legal jurisdiction. You have SP traffic, you have SP crime, SP law and order, you would have an SP medical legal who would deal with all these cases. But again, I don't know, it's just a rumor, I cannot verify its truth. Came down from my seniors to me, so, and it is shelved long back, so no hope there. But the need of the hour is what I'm stressing upon. So what Punjab and Haryana High Court has shown, and even the UP has announced about 46 posts for forensic experts at district level. It's not in medical colleges, at district levels. So if every state government shows, again, this is dependent on state government, because in India, the law and order is a state subject. So that is the reason why postmortems are conducted at some places in private and some places it's not conducted, because it is based on the state policy. National policy will not help in this particular matter. So future looks bright from what I see, but again, there is no guarantees. It's all up to the state government. But actually, the leaders, the judiciary, if they can take a proactive approach, because it's what we are dealing with, the judiciary only. And if they insist that there should be a forensic expert at district level, there would be a huge dam of opportunities would open. Every district would require a forensic expert, and there would be such a huge paucity that even for 10 years, all the forensic seats in India are filled. Still, people will have jobs. Regarding abroad, if you want to pursue, your passion is in forensic, you have a lots of respect if when you go abroad. You have a different job profile, and you would be, if you're really passionate about forensic, the thing to do is go abroad and do it. Because in India, we're not that well versed to examine everything. Neither we are provided so many things. As a routine procedure in firearm injuries, it is said that the body has to be x-rayed to find the location of the bullet lodged in the body. But I never ever have seen anywhere that radiology machine is, x-ray machine is given to the forensic department. And we request radiology department that we need to, postmortem, before the postmortem, we need to x-ray the dead body. They said, don't bring any dead body into the radiology. You manage on your own. So these things were supposed to be done are not done in India, but you would get an opportunity to do everything abroad. Your bedside investigations, your everything would be done abroad. So you would really pursue what you wish to pursue if you are so interested in forensics. So finish your MBBS here, go there, be a pathologist, and show your inclination in forensic. And you would have it's one of the highest paying jobs in US as well as in UK, better than the other doctors, because there are very few takers for this particular specialty.
Right.
So that was about India and abroad.
Got it. So I think a lot of opportunities what you opened up, and a lot of future plans also what could happen, and we can look forward to, right? Great. And now looking into the financial aspects, how is the earning potential in as a forensic, in the specialty?
There are some things which needs to be spoken off the record.
Got you.
Something on the record. I hope you get the message.
Yes.
See, the salary that you would be paid will be equivalent to what you're going to paid with your fellow colleagues if you're in a government setup or in a medical college. That is where the jobs are. If you're a freelancer performing your, being a medical legal expert, going to hospitals and, issuing, examining medical legal cases and giving reports. So there is no end to it. It depends, because accidents do keep on happening. People do, patients do keep coming and getting, medical legal reports, requesting medical legal reports. So depending on how much, like it's just like private practice, how much effort you put in, that much earning potential you will have. But again, the trend is limited, as I said. So only few cities will have. So obviously, when it is in few cities also, there is a competition also.
Right.
So that thing is there. But if you are able to establish it in a new place, in a new city, then earning potential could be plenty. You can always freelance with advocates. You can always be on the panel of advocates, because see, every defense lawyer, a good defense lawyer, will always find faults with the postmortem report, for which he requires another expert to find faults. So you can always tie up with a lawyer and charge fees from there. So these are all freelancing. Freelancing, again, earning a potential is depending on how much effort you put. If you are running from hospital to hospital, because no hospital will hire you, you're just a freelancer. You will be called when you are wanted. So it's like you have your office in your car. I've seen my friends, my contemporaries, who are actually having big cars, SUVs. The rear seat is taken out and they have their office there, printer and everything set up. So they run from hospital to hospital. So it's again how much effort you put in, that is for freelancing. Government, the salary the government pays, it will be equal. You will be paid equal to a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. Like currently, my pay scale is equal to a associate professor neurosurgery, CTVS surgeon of the same cadre, same pay level. So government, you will get equal pay. Private, you can do whatever you wish, but again, the scope is limited. Off the record, I hope you understood.
Got that right. So yeah, so we look. So again, as a career and also as a financial, there are opportunities which one could take it up as per their requirements, right? Okay. So looking into the work-life balance, so you already gave and both extremes, but how would you justify or see the work-life balance?
Work-life balance, even in the extremes, it's not difficult. For
Mhm.
reason, see, as I told you, it's the easiest of job you want. One day, one class a week. If the private medical college is not actually hiring that many things, you might have 3 classes a week. Again, that is also no big deal, 1 hour class. So you are free to do whatever you want. But if you are in a medical college, again, you are there bound by 9 to 5. So you, whatever time you're gonna have, it's only gonna be post 5. In government setup, like said, the workload is much, but many of the states, they have a limitation for the postmortems, that no postmortem will be conducted post evening, in the night. States like Karnataka have shown a proactive approach. The postmortems are conducted even in the night, but again, it's a rotational job. You might get 1 day 24 hours duty when you are doing postmortem, and not necessary that every day you get a postmortem. There could be days even on your postmortem duty, there may be a 0 case coming. I'm not talking about a metropolitan area like Bangalore where case comes every day, but in interior districts, I'm talking about the district hospital, the cases, there may be days where there will be 0 cases for 2 to 3 days together. So you're free, you're just on duty, but you're free, you don't have any postmortems to do. Courts also function during the working hours of the medical college. They are also functioning in the thing. So 9 to 5 is the time that you are occupied, whether you are in government or you are in private. After 5, you're free. So you can easily balance your this thing. But only thing is that when you have court duties, you cannot take, even if you have certain specific this thing, then you might have to attend the court. But courts are also not that rigid. If you give a valid reason or excuse, they also excuse you, but not always. You can't take it for granted that today is my son's birthday and I will take a day off. Don't go to court. If the judge feels that no, your presence is required, he may summon you. So that is one where you are stuck. Otherwise, you are free.
Right. So with all the things, no, in your view, what would be the future scope in next 5 to 10 years? How the specialty would grow, and what you could see in next 5 to 10 years?
See, the growth of the specialties now lies at 2 places. One, the young faculty subject experts who have only about 10 to 15 years of life into the career, and the young aspirants who would join. Because recent trends have shown that forensic medicine as a subject is not chosen. Many of the places, even government, the seats are vacant. There have been places where for 5 years, there are no PG admissions. So if there is not going to be a young force that is going to join into the subject, eventually the subject will die its own death. that will be the scenario. But as I said, the career opportunities are opening, and if the high courts, especially this thing is high courts, they show certain more proactive approach, and even if the the leaders take this particular decision that we require an expert for post-mortem or medical legal works also at district levels, if these things really turn into reality, then would beat any other clinical subject. There would be people dying to get into forensic medicine, because as I said, if you're in a government setup, you just need to see the power that one yields, then only you will get addicted to it. Till you see that power, you feel that it's a subject which is this thing, but you're something where everyone will salute you when you're going into your car. Even I can personally tell from my experience, in Himachal, lockdown is enforced, but still I can manage to, up and down this thing. I've been traveling in the Himachal, kind of, been on sightseeing also, inter-district. But that forensic tag helps you get through to places. So as I said, again, it's all dependent. Right now, there is a lack of jobs, paucity of jobs right now. But I hope the future is bright. Again, it depends on the efforts. So we are doing our best.
All right. Great. So we discussed a lot into academics. We discussed a lot into a lot of structured things. So now we'd like to know more about you. So could you just share your personal journey from the days of MBBS? How was it? How did you MBBS? Where did you do MBBS? How did it go? What happened in the post graduation and during career process? And currently you are in Bilaspur. So some journey, some insights into the journey.
I chose forensic medicine by accident. I was not that inclined to do my medical. Actually, I was at Manipal in hostel, and kind of, I had, being a hostel, we are totally dependent on the, teachers that were provided by the administration, the management. So we had this thing was not there. A mathematics teacher was not there for a well good, 6 months of the 12th standard. She came a little late, and she was given an enormous task of completing the syllabus in the next 2-3 months. And how you have to go about explaining everything. You have to go, like, it's fine, you put up an equation on the table and someone answers it, and fine, okay, fine, next question. So basically I couldn't understand much of the integration, if you can remember your 12th. And I felt that to be a big disadvantage to me during CETs. Those days where the state CETs was there, majority of the seats used to come from the state quotas. So I felt I was, handicapped because of my mathematical inability. And my parents were nagging me to join medical. I don't know, every parent has their own desire that want to see my son as a doctor. Everyone can relate to what my experience is. So they were pestering me, reconsider your decision. See, engineering is this thing you can do, but medical is all the more better and all this. And again, just like at the juncture that the undergraduates would be at this, which branch to choose, the same dilemma everyone has at the 12th. What is there in the medical? It looks all glamorous. Frankly speaking, it looks all glamorous for the 12th standard, but it is not that all glamorous. Now we know it. Once we are into it, we are the punching bags of the society. So my CET also didn't do well as per my perception, that I didn't do well in mathematics. So I just told my mom that fine, I'm thinking of doing medical because my mathematics didn't go well as planned, and biology was okay. And they never actually asked me to reconsider my decision to do engineering, though I had a good rank in engineering. I got a better rank in engineering than my medical CET, for medical engineering branch. But anyway, my parents were so much this thing, so I chose medical, and that is how I landed up with Gulbarga, because I was fed up of living in hostel. I had options to join KMC Mangalore. I had option of not government colleges, but I had option of private colleges like KMC Mangalore. I had option of Ramaiah, BLD, BMC, Belgaum, KMC. But again, I wanted to live with the family after living in hostel for long. So I chose Gulbarga, kind of a native place. And then again, during my MBBS days, I was a backbencher. Lots of the backbenchers we were called. We managed to scrape through every year with a decent score. Not that I should say I'm extraordinary guy. If I was an extraordinary guy, I would not have thought of this thing. I'm more of, uh, I would rather call thinking out of the box person. Medical is one thing that I've done, but I've been always on the other things. Even at AIMS Bilaspur here, I am actually, called for not for my forensic expertise, but for my expertise in computers. For any technical issues, we have started a telemedicine here, so I'm on the committee as a technical coordinator. Anything goes wrong with the network or anything goes wrong with the system, I'm the first person being called to rectify the issues. Right. So I was an average student, managed to scrape through everything in first attempt because sincere. I was able to read regularly, but I enjoyed I would say I was not a bookworm. I enjoyed my MBBS days, and I have memories when I look back upon. So that is what I can say to the students who are still doing internship or final year MBBS, any of your audience. Make memories, because once you become a doctor, these are the only memories that are going to keep you motivated and meet your friends. If you're going to be a bookworm, there is plenty of life ahead to read books, because medical is never ending course. So again, as I said, made a lot of friends, and even in juniors, I was popular on because I was a member of students union. So popular with my teachers also. I can still remember, even after 12 years of leaving Gulbarga, has been finishing my PG, 12 years. Even if I go back to my alma mater, all the faculties who were there to teach me, some of them were junior faculties, have become professors now. They still do recognize me by my face, not by just name, but by my face. So that is one thing I have earned during my UG and PG days. I was very proactive in the students union activities. The academic activities also have organized many conferences. Almost like every conference during my tenure as an UG post second year MBBS till my MD, that is 99 to 2008. So that is about 10 years in my college. Every conference, there has been no conference that my name was not there on a volunteer list or on a delegate, committee list. So I enjoyed my UG days. I enjoyed my PG days. As again, I told you, I chose the subject because I thought the subject is, you just read for the last 1 month. But that was not the case. Once you are into PG, then you have to be sincere. You have to do postmortems. So we were doing postmortems every day. But again, that power, that particular thing, arranging movie tickets through police constables and everything. So this was another aspect that we enjoyed during our PG days also, having the power to this thing. So if anyone comes up from that jurisdiction for postmortem, where the multiplex was there, so just called up, "Bhaiya, night show ke ticket you have to arrange," and that guy would have arranged the tickets for us with the VIP service at the multiplex. So we enjoyed those things also. Lots of fond memories. And again, I told you why I chose the subject of forensic, because of passion for writing and the interest in the subject, the logical thing about the subject. So there was a particular time, this books that I'm right now known for, and connected with the students regarding, what started when I was in my third year MBBS. You are a community medicine expert, so you would know when I'm saying that PARC is the most recommended book, but I can show you about 20 to 30 questions which have been asked in the last 10 years of RGHS, which are not covered in PARC also, or have not been covered that comprehensively for the questions, the particular marks that have been asked for. If there may be 2 lines or 3 lines about that particular topic in the most recommended book, but the question is asked for 5 marks. So it becomes difficult to answer that question. So I felt the same thing. When I was reading, we never had companions, frankly speaking. So we were totally dependent on. There used to be a Bangalore University question bank that was available at Prithvi Bookstore, Bangalore, the most popular bookstore there. So we used to, get those, read questions, and we found that this particular book, though it is recommended, even today, if I go and ask someone any question that, sir, I need an answer for this, they say go read Park. So we felt that there is something that needs to be there for that to cover everything, at least from the exam point of view. Because reading the Park entirely just before the examination also is very, it's a kind of an daunting task. It's a task, something which you feel like standing at the base of Mount Everest. Will I be able to climb it? Kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But anyway, I actually did do well in my community medicine, at least if not the thing, but I had the highest marks in my entire batch in the theory papers. So that prompted me to write something for the sake of students. Find something where you are having the comprehensive information about everything, and the question is answered appropriately to the marks. There are certain questions which are asked which are way beyond that to be there, because I still tell you that there was one question in my paper, DNA fingerprinting, asked for 2 marks. It's a main question. It can be at least 5 marks question for an undergraduate, but you don't know what to write for 2 marks. And then comes the issue that how much you need to write. You waste your time writing it. And again, the issue of arranging the question paper also was difficult, because those days everything was on paper, nothing digital, nothing online. So I felt fine, let us solve this issue for the fellow students. Like I said, again, out of the box thinking. So I started writing, and again I sought counsel from my teachers. They said it's a good idea, we'll help you out whatever way we can. So I started writing with biochemistry, for reason that, again, single paper, so easy to finish, rather than going with 2 papers, anatomy or physiology. So I wrote biochemistry, and that was during my final year. So during my final year, I used to find time out and wrote the book. I never knew about publishing or everything. I self-published it with my own pocket money that I have saved, and tried to sell it. I would rather say try to sell it. I did not sell it much. I printed about 100, thought 100 MBBS students, so 100 students will buy. That was my first mistake. Seeking a guy from local bookstore to sell my books. That also didn't cooperate much. That guy he was like, I was trying to sell it at like base to base price. This costed me for photocopies, and I'll sell it at this price. That's all. There was no profit intention. The other guy wanted some commission, which was supposed to come out from my pocket, so I declined. So thankfully, I had few good friends who would, support me, who would actually deliver books when they were required, who would promote my books. I had this thing. Then I wrote, after just completing my biochemistry, I wrote anatomy on the same lines, but I published a little lesser quantities this time. Then came my final year. I stopped, read, passed my final year, and I thought, okay, fine. Internship is something that I need to do sincerely. But while doing internship, also I found time wherever there were less workload in small subjects where only OPDs were there, like ENT, optho, and community medicine, where your evenings were off after morning OPDs. I continued writing physiology, and fortunately I got a publisher in physiology through JP. They approached me, and we got the book released. And after just finishing that, after finishing physiology, I started writing forensic. And after reading forensic, I learned developed the passion for it. That fine, this is a subject I need to choose, because I can tell you one example, the incident, not an example. In the group studies, we guys used to, we used to read the old MCQs. That is how everyone prepares. They see the MCQs and they try to answer it, and whoever answers need to explain the logic. So we friends used to do group studies. So every day 1 hour was devoted to reading the MCQ book and answering the questions. So there were, when the subject of forensic medicine used to come, I don't know, out of this thing, because I was just finished from writing the book. So I was fresh from my knowledge. So I used to always bet that fine, let's have a bet. We'll bet 10 rupees. Whoever answers the question, that guy gets paid. And depending on how many your answer, if all the three answers, it would be zero. And you won't believe, 5, 6 question papers later on, I was the only guy, sole guy to answer all the forensic questions. And the 7th time I asked them, I said, see, you know, this is something that there has to be an equal chance. We are always losing and you're always winning. We don't want to bet further. And that prompted me, fine, I know the subject. I have learned the subject. As I said, I was actually reading the first MBBS again. That is what was actually happening with me when I was actually solving the books. So that is why I continued doing it, chose the forensic. But regarding the job, when I finished my MD, that was the thing where, like, again, wanted to stay back in the same place, because I chose to stay because comfort zone. Didn't wanted to move out of Gulbarga, and wanted a job in the same college where I finished. But again, God had different plans for me, and I landed up in Kanyakumari. But again, there was not much workload. I could pursue my writing there also. So I stayed there for a good amount of 8 years in Kanyakumari, because the management was good. They actually, you know, encouraged me to write. I was the only faculty member who was offered books from the library. Who were actually, you know, special exception was made to me that I could take books from the library to, you know, write, because those days these PDFs and all were not there. You had to open a book to write.
Right. Yeah.
And computer was a luxury. Buying a decent computer, in desktop, laptops were not heard of, no, or even if they were there, they were imported and costing about 1 lakh of rupees. So desktop, even the desktop was a luxury. You buy a basic configuration. Those days was the Celeron processors, costing about 60,000, 50, 60,000. So I used to write initial days when I had started writing in my MBBS. I had neither had a computer or something. I still possess, you know, I preserve and I still value, cherish those handwritten notes. I used to write handwritten. Now everything is on laptops. I've stopped writing. But I used to do, I've seen those days where I used to write, and I had a particular flair for one particular piece of paper only and one particular pen, Reynolds 045. So I only need to used to write with that particular pen, and I needed to write in a, you know, very legible writing, not doctor's handwriting, so that the guy who is typing it for me could read it. So that was a difficult task that I had managed. That's why I never wanted to leave out of Gulbarga, because the guy who was typing my books got so perfect with my handwriting that my job was reduced. He used to make very less spelling mistakes. But again, landed up in Kanyakumari, that I got promoted till the post of professor there. I resigned or got relieved from there as a professor for family issues. And I joined up in Ambala up north, because what I felt was, after 8 years of my career, I was not doing any postmortems. I was not exposed to PGs. So my education, my knowledge was just limited to UG level. So I had finished writing till the 3rd year. Only the clinical subjects were remaining. I had finished writing all the till 3rd year. And I wanted now to do something in my subject itself, because there is a lot to learn. Doctors, this thing never stops. So wanted to join an institute where there were PGs. So PGs would be only few, as I said, Haryana and Punjab, Haryana and Karnataka are the only states where private medical colleges are allowed to conduct postmortems. And without postmortems, you can't have PGs. Otherwise, you go to a government setup. So again, government is, you know, there are a lot many issues and difficulties and this thing that comes into play when you are applying for a government job. So the easiest one to migrate was a private setup. So I joined a private university up north because there were PGs. I wanted to get back to the field. I wanted to go back and, you know, do postmortems, that subject I specialized in. And landed up in Ambala up north. Then from Ambala, I had to shift to Gurgaon because my wife got a good job at Gurgaon. So I was in Gurgaon for a good 1.5 years. My organizing skills helped me to get elevated till the post of associate dean there.
Okay.
And after coming up north, this particular kind of this realization dawned on me that I need to apply to institutes which promote research, which encourage research, which nurture talent, and this thing. So I started applying for AIMS after coming up north. Down south, I never thought about government, applying for any government, because of one thing is that it's a difficult process, and there are other issues well known to everyone in applying in a government setup. So I appeared for the interview at AIMS Bilaspur at PGI Chandigarh, and God willing, got selected here. And after joining AIMS, after interacting with the faculties here who are in AIMS, who most of the faculties are from PGI or AIMS background, who have at least done their UGs, PGs, or at least some senior residency in these institutes. This is one piece of advice I want to give to anyone: whatever branch you choose, whatever you do, like you can just take a take home message from my whatever interview you are hearing. My take home message would be: you need to serve or need to be in these particular institutes of national importance, AIMS, PGI, JIPMER, NIMHANS, for certain duration of your life. You do your MBBS from here. If you got in, was the best thing that you could have done, getting into AIMS. You're right now aspiring to be PGs. So you aim for AIMS. Be it any new upcoming AIMS also, be it like upcoming AIMS like Jodhpur, Rishikesh, don't not necessarily only AIMS Delhi, or aspire for JIPMER, aspire for NIMHANS or PGI. Even non-clinical subjects are taught to such a detail. I'll tell you why I'm stressing upon this. And in case it's not that you don't land a seat, don't waste your 2-3 precious years just that I want to get into AIMS. If you're getting a good government college, they are also equally centers of learning and teaching. But you do your stint of SRship in these institutes just to understand and learn and inculcate that habit of aspiring to do something great, innovative, new. Because here in these institutes, besides teaching, research, innovations are something which are actually expected, demanded from the faculty. So they are on their toes to do something new. They are driven to do something new and innovative, and they are provided. It's not that like a state medical college, government medical college in a state, where there is a paucity of funds. Here there is a huge fund. You just write a research proposal, you would be given grant, you would be exposed to all this. So you get to learn these things being in AIMS. You will develop this as a habit. You will inculcate this as a habit. This will go a long way. I realized this very late after joining here. But there I durust hai. Now I feel there is a lot of learning potential for me right now that I can do and grow my career, which I felt right now. I felt that what I was doing previously, I just wasted about not wasted, I did something productive, but 10 years of my life I could have done a lot more. I started a little late. So even when you are doing your post graduation in any institute, try to do your SRship in such institutes, so that at least you will develop this particular habit, inculcate this habit of achieving and trying for something big. You're not only oriented towards patient care, because medical field will grow not just by patient care. It grows because of research. That I've realized during this COVID time. But there have been so many research that have come in, so many publications that have taken place. So these challenges, when these challenges are thrown to you, when you are in a setup which is only dealing with patient care, you are only landed up with doing duties in COVID wards. But if you are in an institute of national importance, besides COVID duties, you are encouraged to do research into this particular field. Nowhere in India, any institute has taken the autopsy findings in case of COVID-19 dead bodies. Nowhere in India except AIIMS Bhopal. So an institute like AIIMS only will encourage you to do it. Nowhere else. Virtual autopsy I mentioned. It is granted only in AIIMS Delhi, nowhere else. You get an opportunity to do it. So you if you are doing right now SRship in AIIMS Delhi, you would be exposed to this concept of virtual autopsy. So wherever you go, you know what is to be done. Right now, it's an alien concept to me. I know the theoretical, I don't know the practicals. But now, being in AIIMS, I can actually ask to be posted, deputed there for training. The institute like this will help you go abroad, go national, anywhere you want to get trained also, which is the major shortcoming if you are in state colleges or a major handicap in a private college. So aspire to be in touch, at least for a short span of your career, in these institutes of national importance. That would be my take-home message for you guys.
Got that. So it's been very inspiring to look into the entire journey which you have taken, and thank you so much for taking through the memory lane from the days of UG and throughout the career process. It's been very inspiring.
I'm actually I'm kind of a reserved person. I don't open up, but I thought it was important for me to tell all this so that students don't just think that they are into medical. They just have to read. There is a life outside of the medical which actually should be enjoyed also.
Great. So when you went through the entire process, I could remember my UG days and a lot of things what we had gone through. So really, that's been a great experience. Sharing with you that. So with looking at all these things, during your entire career process, what has been the challenge what you have faced? One of the challenges what you think in the career process as a forensic.
See, challenge was actually I kind of didn't have much of the challenges because I was like my basic drawback I would say was to be in my comfort zone. So I never actually wanted to face any challenges. That is something that I regret now. As I said, what I was doing 10 years, I should have actually applied for institutes such as these long time back. So challenges were not much, but one has to actually, try to do something fruitful out of life, which I feel. And that should be the challenge one should take. That you should be remembered when you're, leave a legacy behind. I thought take up a challenge. If you want to be in a comfort zone, you will never be remembered. You will be just another doctor. But if you take up a challenge, see, writing books was a challenge to me, but I mastered it. So initial days were the challenge. I'm not going to discuss that. I discussed them in the thing. But as a career, I was always wanting to be in my comfort zone. So that was an issue. Had I given my government interviews in initial days, I would have faced the challenges in terms of getting selection. But again, as I said, I was in my comfort zone, so I didn't face. And after coming up to 12 years of experience, it becomes easy to get into, because you are now the master of the subject. So you can face any interview. So I would just tell them that take challenges. I actually I didn't face any, but had I been, been thinking on the other lines, I too would have faced challenges. So there in this particular thing, I actually, I don't have any much answers. Just a piece of advice: take up a challenge so that you will be remembered for that thing. Like I would rather say that you are doing something challenging, that is something out of the box. I've seen your videos about ECG teaching. They're really innovative. They are, at least someone should, even in every undergraduate student during their final year MBBS, should take the course and understand and implement it during their final year as well as during their internship. to be perfect. So this is something that you are doing. This is something that challenge you have done. That's a challenge you have taken up. Sorry.
Right.
So this is something that you have done. I didn't have any this thing. So rather it's thing. I really appreciate for the thing that you have done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's really a commendable job. Envy you for that.
Thank you coming from me. Right. So just a minute. There was a light which was coming into your face. Could you, I think there was a laptop or something in front of you. Now it is not there.
No,
There's something
this
which
is just
was no something
no,
is
no,
there in
no.
front of you.
That's my
You
laptop.
can
That's all.
just move the lap like move your mouse once. No.
There is a light of webcam. That's all, but that's a tiny light.
No, that was good. Now it's become a bit dark.
Okay, I don't know. I was actually a little bit forward. Maybe that was the reason. I actually didn't
No,
anticipate the
no.
lightings.
No. Ah, yeah. Now it is bad. Now what happened?
There is a desktop which I just switched on.
Ah, yeah. Correct.
I
Correct.
think that
That was the
went this.
light. Yeah. Now it is bright.
Ah,
Now it is bright. Okay.
okay.
Let's last two questions, right? Right, sir. So now looking into the entire 12 years of a career, what has been the best part of being in forensic medicine for you?
Best part of being in forensic medicine is the first thing is the personal, from personal point of view, is
Yeah.
the power, the authority that you wield, that I have been always stressing upon when you are in government servant or when you are actually involved with the police, not necessarily even in private. If you are doing postmortems, you do have that power or that authority. I've used it a lot of time whenever required to get favors or, to bend the rule a bit of times for personal benefits. But another satisfaction comes when you actually, you give justice to the dead. The real this thing that comes that your postmortem report was instrumental in, conviction of an accused, or for that matter, even vice versa, that there have been both ways. There have been incidences when I've done postmortem where there was a false accusation of assault, whereas there was no injuries on the body. There was just a false case that was made up to, extract some revenge or some money. And just based on the autopsy report, the accused were acquitted. They were let go without any charges. And there were instances where there were injuries on the body, but there was some foul play by the investigating authorities or by the relatives or someone. But you put it down in postmortem report, and that forced the investigating authorities to look at it at a second look and re-investigate it further and open, like, it's kind of taking and opening up a open and shut case. That's what the investigating authorities call it, that they feel it's just case of an hanging. But when you label it to be a case of strangulation, then their work increases. Now strangulation meaning a murder, then they have to find an accused. So that particular scope of this thing, that you have a very important role, you are that very important spoke in that particular wheel of justice. That is very satisfying. That as a doctor, you are treating a patient, fine, but you are here, you are giving someone who is already dead, who don't have any expectation from you, but you're doing something for him, because everyone deserves justice. The society is based upon justice. So you are an important integral part and you are instrumental in that. That is very satisfying, that your opinion, your decision, your few words can make and break someone's future. If you're wrong, an innocent can be punished. If you are right, and guilty will be punished. So it's a kind of a responsibility that is on your shoulder. That is another thing. Just like, okay, similar to other doctors, they face that a life of a patient is in their hand. But here we are dealing with the dead. So the justice part, that actually, is really satisfying. There have been few cases where we have gone to an extra length to find out and change the course of investigation. Like I said, hanging and strangulation. So those have been satisfying this thing.
Right. Right. So,
scenarios.
yeah. So being one of the key person in giving the closure to the family and also to the person, so makes a big difference, right? So at the end of the day, there's a peace. Everyone is at peace
Yeah.
of the closure, right? Right. So we're almost at the end of the discussion. So what would be your guidance for the students who are looking to who are inclined to take forensic medicine as a specialty, and what would you say? And a general word of advice, guidance for them as a career.
See, when I'm saying if choosing as a branch, forensic medicine as a branch, as a specialty, uh, you do it only if you have a passion for it. You find it logic, you find it interesting. Just don't choose it because you're not getting any other branch. You rather take a diploma, you in any clinical, or you rather wait out a year. You do it only because you have a passion for it. Because as I said, you should know your forensic. Otherwise, you are the one who is going to be at the receiving end of the punishment from the judge or from the investigating authorities. There could be charges, criminal charges also can be framed in case you make a mistake, disappearing of evidence, or after if you miss something and then the body is already cremated, then the police can always have authority and right to charge that you actually concealed an evidence. So there are a lot many responsibilities that come. So you do it only when you have a passion for it. If you don't have a passion, you're just doing it for the heck of it, you would find the subject most dry and boring. You will not have any interest for it. So it's better be an MBBS and do postmortem in a government setup. Why do being an forensic expert? And even if you are inclined to take it, my word of advice is do it from the Institute of National Importance. Because again, as I said, and again a general advice to everyone, that whatever branch you choose, aspire to do in these institutes of national importance, because of the exposure that you would receive, the kind of training that you would receive, the habit of research that would be inculcated in you, and the opportunities that would be presented to you when you are working in this institute. You would be allowed to go on conferences, you will be allowed to do any type of research, present papers, you would be sent to training abroad at the expense of the institute with the leaves, official leaves sanctioned. So these many opportunities will come to you only if you're doing it in an institute of national importance. So if you want to do it, forensic, and you will easily get forensic medicine in any institute of national importance, at least for like next 3-4 years. Because as I said, right now career opportunities are few. For last 5 years, I've seen very few takers for forensic medicine. Those whoever have taken for the sake of passion or as a compulsion, for because the few people I've met, they were already in government service, and they felt that doing forensic would actually just make them a specialist. Their increment would take place and they would get a district posting rather than a PSC posting. So many actually chose this particular branch for those reasons. But if you are a fresh graduate, just take this particular branch only if you are passionate, and only preferably, I wouldn't say only, preferably in institute of national importance, so that you are well versed with everything. You are well versed with every new thing that is there in this particular. There is very few research that have takes place in forensic, because it's all about physics. If there is no advancement in the science, there would be no advancement in forensic. It's all about science here. But you would have lots of opportunities to learn and grow in your career and even personally, because this institute gives you an opportunity to grow personally also. If you are talented, you will be recognized by your teachers, by the institute.
So thank you so much, sir, for being here today, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you
The
in this
pleasure was
program
all
today.
mine, Dr. Sajjan. The pleasure was all mine. I'm really no, highly indebted to you for giving me this opportunity to speak. It's I think first time that I've spoken, about my personal life to someone, which will be viewed by lot many of your audiences.
Right,
Because as I said, I'm a very kind of a reserved person,
right,
but this opportunity prompted me to open up,
right,
and you need to guide them properly,
right.
and that is what my intention was, to give them
Exactly.
the clear picture.
Right. So I'm sure that every medical student who have finished 5 years of the medical, 5.5 years of medical school would know Singh Yetraj, right? So either through companion, yeah, either through, right. So today, I think they're getting the face to know to attach with the name and to know an opportunity to know about you and and also get a guidance through you. So thank you so much for adding a lot of value for the students today, sir.
Yeah, just a word of this thing. I wouldn't call advice or just in this thing that I wish you would just put down my email ID for
Mhm.
anyone who wants to pursue forensic medicine. If they need further this
Sure.
thing, you can share my email ID, and
Mhm.
student can contact me if they are really interested regarding forensic medicine, which institute to choose, or any other personal queries. I'm open to answer them.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful, sir.
I'll share my email ID with you,
Sure.
and you can use it to pass it on to students who really want to have any queries sorted.
Surely, surely, we'll do that, sir. Thank you for again one more opportunity which opened, I think, a lot of for as a forensic medicine. I think that's great, and thank you so much,
Most
sir, for
welcome.
being here today. It's been
Yeah,
thrilling for me to interact and to hear the entire story.
we're looking forward to meet you sometimes when I'm back in Bangalore.
Sure, sir. Sure, we'll do.
So really would like to get in touch and do something more. And the other thing that I've learned in AIMS is to collaborate.
Right,
So collaborate somewhere in certain aspects of medical education.
right. So I'm more of tech savvy as what you were looking into. So
Yeah, that I that
let's.
that I guessed from your videos and everything.
Right, right,
So
right.
on our wavelength, we can at least match somewhere and do something more for the students.
Sure. Of course,
Sure.
right.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Pleasure. Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Isn't this valuable to know the career pathway of a specialist? Hear from experiences of 50 plus consultant doctors from across India. Get an insight into 22 plus medical specialties and make an informed career decision which will shape your future. Join India's first of a kind online medical specialty summit exclusively designed for medical students. Visit our website drsajjanacademy.com to know more. Don't miss out on this golden opportunity.